Hi, kindergarten, first and second grade leaders. We're getting ready for July 7th. This week, we're looking at David showing mercy. David showed mercy to Saul, and we're going to see how that all unfolds. Before we get there, remember where we're coming from. Remember, Saul was the king that God provided for the Israelites, although he was not the perfect king. So God helped Samuel see that David was going to be more of a king after God's heart. And so he led Samuel to find David, and David was anointed by Samuel to be the next king. After David defeated Goliath and befriended Saul's son Jonathan, Saul began to see that David was a good leader and David was a good person, and he became very, very jealous of him. And so he did things to try to take David's life, try to do away with David because David threatened his kingship. And so David runs away because obviously Saul's always trying to kill him. And so as he's out in the wilderness, he has about 400 guys that go with him. And those people were like David. They were, it says, desperate, in debt, or discontented in 1 Samuel 22:2. So there were a group of guys that were following David around who were very much like him. Remember, David is supposed to help us see what Jesus is going to be like. And Jesus was not the kind of king that entertained other kings. He was the kind of king that was with the desperate, in debt, and all of the things that King David is helping point us towards. While David is in the wilderness, Saul is out there looking for him, and one day wanders into a cave. Saul needs to go to the bathroom, but doesn't realize that David is in the cave and that some of David's men are in the cave. And so David had a chance to take revenge back on Saul, but he did not. He told his men not to. He told his men not to do anything to harm Saul, but he got close enough to Saul that he was able to get a piece of his cloak. And later on down the road, David finds Saul on the road, and he addresses him, and he says, "My Lord the King." He's very respectful to him. He doesn't attack necessarily, and he bows down before him and shows him the piece of fabric that he was able to get off of his cloak. And as he's showing Saul the piece of the robe that he had cut, he says to Saul, he says, "I've done nothing against you. God might punish you, but I will never harm you. Let God decide who is right and who is wrong. May he protect me from you." In other words, he's saying to Saul, I had the chance. I didn't hurt you, which should be proof that I'm not going to hurt you. Let God be the one who decides who's going to be king. And as David is saying all of this to Saul, Saul says back to David, "You are more righteous than I, because you have done what is good to me, though I have done what is evil to you. Most people would kill an enemy, but you have let me go. May God reward you for your kindness." How important is this lesson for all of us? All of us have faced up to people who have done wrong things for wrong reasons to all of us. And we could be the revengeful type. We could be the jealous type. We could be trying to harm them because they harmed us. Or we could let God be the judge and let God be the one who takes care of things. And I know in my life in particular, when I have decided to step back and let God be the one that takes care of a situation, he takes care of it in such a way that I would have never, ever, ever, ever imagined could have happened. And many, many of those times I have seen people turn to God as their savior because God helped direct, not me, because God helped direct them in showing them what was going on, and that it was bigger than what they understood, and that they wrongly accused or wrongly attacked verbally or sometimes physically. I've also seen that there have been times where God has just allowed there to be distance created so that he can begin to work in other people's lives, my life, so that when we do see each other again, there's a bit of healing. So I hope that this story encourages you as much as it encourages me. And then also, of course, it helps point us to Jesus. You know, Jesus was that perfect king. He was the savior king that we needed at the right time in the right place. And that God didn't forget that he made that promise. There needed to be some time. There needed to be some things that happened. Everything needed to come together at the right time for God's will to be done. And so we can follow God and trust his timing because he's helping direct them. And then also turning our enemies into people who follow after God as well. All right, so your minute to win it game this week should be a whole lot of fun. There are lots and lots of popsicle sticks and dice in your bag. That's because we don't want anybody to share a popsicle stick because they're going to put it in their mouth. They're going to get to keep their popsicle stick when they're done because they're going to put it in their mouth. So what they're going to do is put it in their mouth, probably hold it with their teeth. You need to hold your popsicle stick as tight as you can, as straight as you can, and then they're going to try to stack oops, my hand shook. They're going to try to stack dice. I can't talk and hold that at the same time. So they're going to try to stack dice on the end of their popsicle stick and try to get as many dice as they can stacked in one stack together. If you want to give your littler ones the chance to make a couple different stacks, you can do that. But for your older ones, you should let them see how many they can stack on their stack alone. You're going to separate your group into two teams. Each team member gets 1 minute to complete the task. It's much better to do it that way because that way they can get a whole lot more dice in place, honestly. This is your scorecard. Don't worry about this column, writing the kids' names on there. That was something that I thought we needed that is not going to work real well. So don't worry about that part. But each team, there's plenty of popsicle sticks. Each kid gets their own popsicle sticks, and each kid is going to take a minute to try to stack as many dice as they can on their popsicle stick. And then you'll record that and then total it all up at the very end. Your winners will have will get to be king for the day if you let them. I'm just messing with you. I don't know what they can be. You can decide what their award is today. All right. Then in your small group time, you're going to do a little role playing today. What you're going to do is you're going to read some different scenarios. And to be a true role play, what you may want to do is assign 1 or 2 kids to work together. One of them can be, in this first role play activity, they can be the younger brother. And then another kid within the group could be the older brother. And then you read this thing. Your younger brother breaks one of your favorite toys. So the younger brother can act like he's breaking a favorite toy while playing with it without permission. And so the older one has to respond to the younger one the way he thinks he might actually do that. And then you're going to kind of introduce these ideas of 3 different things: mercy, justice, and revenge. Remember, this week we talked about that David had the opportunity to take revenge on Saul. And there's a definition here to help you explain to kids what the difference is between them all. Mercy is withholding punishment. There's times where all of us probably deserve some punishment, but complete mercy, like David showed to Saul, is withholding punishment altogether and not giving them any sort of punishment. Justice is giving punishment for something that's deserved. I like to think of justice as like a law. So if I get caught speeding down the road, then I deserve a ticket. And so that's a good way to remember what justice is. And revenge is trying to hurt someone because they hurt you. So help kids, especially your little kids, think about which way would I naturally respond? And if I was going to work on it, what might I need to do to respond differently? Because we can't assume that everybody's going to give mercy every time, especially when it's our little brothers and sisters, right? And so, what is it that you need to work on? Maybe you need to stop and think for a few minutes before you react. Maybe you need, maybe you need to go talk to somebody else before you have a reaction. And hopefully, parents are helping direct towards mercy and justice when needed from an adult, if that makes sense. So I hope this is a great discussion starter for you. Remember that your notes down in your what you say section really helps you see the point behind the activity. And so I'll point out, mercy is when someone does not receive the punishment he or she deserves. Only Jesus on the cross perfectly shows both justice and mercy. Jesus took the punishment we deserve, and God showed us mercy. All right, your memory verse activity is the same still. It's the sticker activity. So each kid gets a sticker and they're going to put themselves in order so that they can read the memory verse together. And the memory verse reads, "No one is like you, Lord. You are great and your name is mighty in power." Jeremiah 10:6. And then you can pray with your kids. I hope you're helping us pray for leaders to join our teams on Sunday mornings. Each team needs extra hands. We especially need help greeting at the doors, in the parking lot, at our check-in stations. We could use extra hands in every room. There's always behind the scenes stuff that we could use help with as well. There is so much laundry that we do every week. It would be so awesome to have somebody that would be able to come and do the laundry for us a couple days a week. There is paper that needs to get cut all the time. There are behind the scenes things. If someone says, I want to do something, but I don't know that I could teach a kid, I promise you I can find something that someone else can do. In fact, we're getting ready for Operation Christmas Child in the next few weeks. And so there's always things that we could use to help get ready to prepare boxes to ship out to people. Let me know who those people are, and I'd love to connect with them. Thanks for leading. I'll talk to you soon.